So this is episode 2 of the Riff Tacos podcast. My name is Paul Misko, and I am stoked to introduce my first guest, Mr. Sean Vandegrift, who is my good friend, former, and now again, current vocalist of our band From a Second Story Window. So I thought he'd be a perfect first guest to, see what the hell you've been up to for the last 15 years. And catch up, talk about what we're doing now, and kind of like your history in music, and what got you started. So,
hell yeah! Hey, dude,
what's happening?
Not a lot. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. Getting to see the inner workings of your podcast, and also a part of the the inner workings of like this new technology that we're using today. The only ones I've ever even done has been like Zoom based and stuff like that. So this is pretty cool. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I just found this platform Googling. I think my other friend started a podcast, and he was like, check out Riverside. So it seems pretty sick so far. So
hell yeah.
Stoked for that going forward. But yeah, I think it would be cool to kind of hear, at first, just like if you go way back, the first things that got you into music, first music you heard, kind of like how I explained in my first episode. Like, do you remember how old you were, that first moment when you heard a song or saw a band that you're like, okay, something clicked, music's going to be a big part of my life, or I want to play music? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, and by the way, if you haven't listened to the first episode, go listen to that, because great storytelling, and it did set me up for kind of what I wanted to talk about too. Loved how you dug into early introduction to music, listen to radio rock and shit you were really into right away. Very similar pathway. I remember, when I was growing up, my parents had a lot of vinyl, shit like that, like Bee Gees, Chicago, stuff like that at our house. And, had access to it, so I'd listen to it because, hey, I was always into technology, still into technology. But, cool, you can put this wax circle on a platter and shit comes out. Like, music comes out. This is amazing. So I didn't care, what it was. I was just going through all of their library, listening to all kinds of different stuff. They did have some Kiss albums, so that was pretty cool, too.
Sick.
But, yeah, when I really started to get into, I guess my own music, I got, a little version of a record player myself, and my mom got me a couple different Michael Jackson singles. So automatically I thought I was Michael Jackson. I was, dude, the king of pop. I was downstairs. There is some old ass Betamax video or whatever. It might even be that of me trying to imitate his moves. All kinds of shit, dude. I will find it if I can find it, or get my mom to unearth that shit. It'd be pretty fun to watch with you guys. But
that's going on
I
gram.
really. And I think that really brought out maybe future what was to come with the frontmanisms and all that other shit. I really wanted to perform, and I would do it in front of the family members, and they're like, yeah, he's doing all right. He's doing pretty good. But I thought I was doing the best. I thought I was awesome. These little Michael Jackson records, whatever else they had to expose me to. But my mother and my father, mom and dad were never big music heads. My mom, maybe sometimes here and there would kind of show me some stuff. But again, like I said, Chicago was her favorite band ever. So I would hear her listen to that. And if it wasn't that, there really wasn't anything playing in the house at all. So, but I knew right away, when I would hear certain things, I'm like, wow, that sounds cool. I do like the way that sounds, or something clicks. I like music that I really, really like.
Yeah. You feel something there's something here.
It resonates, right? Yeah, it connects with you. And it wasn't until her brother, my uncle, actually I have two uncles, one of which was in bands, my other, which was just a music head, was into all kinds of shit, but definitely heavier style of music. He exposed me to early Metallica, Megadeth, all those kind of things, and eventually gave me all of his old vinyl too. So I had Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Injustice for all that stuff early. Because he went through all these different transitions. He went into country rock and country boot scoot, all kinds of shit. He'd go to actual country bars and dance and line dance and all kinds of shit. And when he did that, he was like, yeah, bud, you can have all this shit for a while. Gave me all his vinyl. So, I took it. My mom was like, okay, I don't really know what they're saying, but I guess he can try this. That's whatever. He's now 10, 11 years old, whatever now. That's cool. He can have it. So started to listen to that, and that really started to connect. I was like, something about this shit like gets you going. Like this shit is fucking great. So I love listening to that. And then after a while, my man came back to some heavier shit, but came back to metal. And this is right around where I was like, I want to see some of this stuff live. Like, what does this stuff sound like? What does it look like live? Because I was always like kind of thinking what you said. Like, I don't know if you touched on that before, but I thought you said like something about, you know, on the radio, like you thought they were doing it like right beyond the radio or playing the music right there, like live.
That was actually Nick, but I'm even dumber because when I was a kid and I would go to the movies, I would think the actors were actually behind the screen acting it out like a play every time people came in to watch it. And I was like, whoa, they're really back there. The three ninjas are actually back there.
So I was like, that for me too, I was like, I gotta see this happen. Like I gotta see it, you know, in front of me. Once he explained it to me, he's like, hey, there's some shit called concerts. You're going to come to that with me. I'm going to show you some of those. And the first one I ever went to, I'll never forget, was my first concert ever was White Zombie.
Oh, no shit.
And he got us the best, like it was still like the seating or whatever, but like, of course, everyone stood up. Like we were maybe 5 rows back from Sean, the bass player. She was like right in front of me.
Wow.
And I was just like, holy shit. Like this, not only do I love this, but how maybe can I do this someday?
Right.
Like, and I'm like now 13 years old. Like,
especially that being your first concert, that will blow your mind when you're that young.
He did take me to some great concerts. It was that one first, and then right after, there's 2 others that were super great. That right after that one was when 9 Inch Nails was on tour with David Bowie. So it was the I'm Afraid of Americans tour.
Oh wow!
So I got to see that one as well with him, and then the last one he took. So I got some friends into it. Like at school, I was like, look, like we got to get to some shows. Shows are the shit. I got to bring you guys to this. This is great. What should we go see? And one of my friends said, we got to go see fucking Korn.
Oh,
and I said,
there it is.
Oh, shit. So I went, and I remember I went and told my uncle about that. And I talked about this, I think, a little bit on the other podcast, but that we did not that long ago. And it was the Korn tour with Limp Bizkit's like first run. Like they never did shit ever before that. I remember they had on tour that Limp Bizkit shirt that was the Burger King logo.
Right.
So I don't know if you Google that if you haven't seen it. That right there was like their first run, like their first tour. And then
so it was all $3 bill, y'all.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so they were playing Counterfeit. They were playing all that shit. And also Helmet was on that show too. But the one thing that stuck out for me and my other friend, like, hey, he had seen one of them that we actually brought along, and the one that recommended, he had seen Korn before. And he was like, listen, this is nothing like you've ever seen. I know you went to a couple shows before this, and they were good shows, but Korn's different. Like, wait do you get in front of them? It hits into your chest. Like, this is different live show. Like, this is a different live show.
What record were they touring on then?
That was just when Life is Peachy just came out.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
So this to me, and like I was so happy to be like, I remember when how they came out to, they had like the silk screen in front of them, all the flashing lights behind them, so you saw all their outlines, and then it just drops and they go like right into Chi or something like, I can't remember, but it was insane, dude. So that's my exposure to like, you know, music, into like heavy music, but then also like live performance, like seeing all that. And I don't know if it was a little bit further beyond that, but just at the start, I'm like, I want to do something that makes me feel like this. Like when I'm watching them right now, I love this feeling. Like, would it even be amplified maybe if I did it?
Right.
So that's exactly kind of how I felt from going to any of those live shows.
Yeah. I always wondered like the difference of like most people love music, some sort of music, whatever it is, but like what makes people different to the point where they're like, okay, I want to do that. And some people are like, I have no interest in that, but I love it. Like, it's just a different kind of person that's like, okay, give me that thing. I want to make noise too.
Right.
Yeah. But like I said, in the first podcast, like Nick was the person that got me to want to play guitar because he's playing my neighbor's guitar. So like, I always like to know, like, is there that moment for people? Like I think you mentioned already, or maybe before we started, that you started with bass.
Yeah, so and which is also touching on it real quick. Never knew that Nick played guitar or even tried to strum a guitar.
Well, he didn't really play, but
because we all know him as the drummer he is today, one of the amazing drummers that I've, like you said, like I'm one of the biggest fans of Nick as well. Hearing that, like just like him like doing something other than the drums to me, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But similar to that, I did start with bass because that's why I think where I started, I wanted to be a part of something like that. That same uncle asked me, like, he actually had like acoustic guitars and shit around his house. And by no means was he any kind of musician at all either, but he knew a couple chords, which kind of showed me some things was there. And he asked like, hey, would you be interested in doing, or trying guitar? And I remember, I think I took one of his acoustic guitars to some lessons, tried that for a little bit, and was like, nah. Like I could see like the payoff would be great, but like I'm just lazy as shit. Like so, like I figured out how to do a couple power chords, and I just sat and would strum those all day at home. Like
guitar's a real grind when you start. Like getting the fingers calloused and it hurts, and like your hands don't want to talk to each other and work together. Like have to get through that like first year, and if it's not for you, and then you're just like, okay, what else is there?
Didn't make it past that. I played Wild Thing. I could play Wild Thing on guitar, and that was it.
Yeah.
So like I got those chords down, and that was it. But knowing that, and like I think I had a friend that was like, well, you like that instrument, I mean, or you'd like to like play something like that. He's like, I think bass is easier. And he's like, for you like the power chords, and I see you trying that, like why don't you go get a bass? And like right around this time, like my uncle was like, same dude was like, if you're into it, I'll help you with it, I'll help you try to get some of that shit, but not everything that I would need to, like I was already way ahead of myself. I wanted to like go play shows, and I had no band or anything. And like so I was like, okay, cool. Like he got me a bass guitar because I told him about that. And then I think at this point, like I was not old enough to get any kind of credit or anything like that, but I was like maybe 17, like almost 18 at this point. But I convinced my mom to take out a Sam Ash credit card. I remember that. And I swore I got a little job. I swore I'd pay for it. So she got me an SWR working man's amp, bass amp. I had all that. I had the head. I had all the things and everything in the house. And I'm really surprised to this day still that she let me bring all that shit into the house. Because I'm like, it's in my room. Like it's a smaller house. Like, I mean, I'm right down the hallway. And I'm like, I don't know if my mom knows how loud this shit's going to get.
How big was the cab?
God, dude, if I remember, I know it was like, 4/8 or something, and like or something like that. I can't remember. Something like decent enough, but then there was like one larger one at the end. I know nothing about guitars or bass or anything anymore at all. Like, I mean, you guys can explain it to me, and that's why I remember in the last one of the podcasts, like with Joe and I was talking about, he's like, I'll take it from here. Like, music, any instruments I know nothing about, but I'm
not much of a gearhead myself, so I know how to turn it on and plug it in, and it makes noise.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super intrigued when people talk about it. Like I like just anything gear wise too. Like again, like I don't know much about it, but I love others' passion when they start to share it. Like, and I see them like, and this is why you get this, and this is what tone this gives you, and I'm like, yeah, dude, that sounds really good. Like, tell me more. So I'm super. I was super into just trying to get some kind of sound that was loud, so I could hopefully find some other dudes that would want to be in a band.
Right.
And, got all that stuff, and finally found some dudes in high school that said, hey, we're fucking around in a garage. Heard you had some bass equipment. Do you want to bring your stuff over and try out? And nothing at all came of that. Like I literally went there and it was just a wall of noise, like that we were just strumming back and forth to each other. But at the same time, like there was a vocalist and he was like, trying to scream, and like, dude, he screams, and I'm like, how hard is that? Like, so like my mind goes right to another, like I go right out of that lane, right into another lane. And I'm like, okay, I've always loved, what a vocalist brings to live performances. I've always loved like, that energy, that I don't know, just that the passion that they exude when they're performing in front of people. Like, and he had a little bit of that, but his voice sucked. And I'm like, I don't know much about screaming, but I think maybe I could do better than that. I would love to. I'd love to at least try. And that began that path. I remember one of the vocalists that I started to base my first, what style on, or I guess, or, what vocal styling that I wanted to try to imitate or even try to get even close to, was Dan from Zayo. And when I heard Where Blood and Fire Bring Rest, like I was like, holy shit, people can make that sound with their fucking throat. Yeah. Like, how do you do that? So, and I just would listen to that record over and over and over again. I remember literally listening to it on the bus, like constantly, but I was so scared to try it. And then one day was it? I think my mom was not going to be home for a while, and I'm like, just normal dude, like taking a shower, and I'm like, I'm in the shower and it's right there. I'm like, I'm going to fucking scream at the shower head. And like started to squeak out all the goofy shit, like, trying to think about, I'm going to try to imitate it. It probably sounds horrible, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try it. And then later on, I thought, I didn't know this, but my mom had been home for like 10 minutes way before that. So she's like, I get out. She's like, can you never do that again? Like whatever you were doing in there, just never, ever do that again. So I had to figure out some other ways to actually practice vocals.
Yeah.
So I never did that again at home.
That is tough. I didn't think, especially for a screamer, like you can't just do that in your bedroom. Like you could play a guitar unplugged to practice or play acoustic.
Dude, you sound like a psychopath.
Pads. Yeah,
you sound like a psychopath. No matter where you are or what you do, you try to go into the basement behind the washer and dryer. Like she's like, "Are you hurt? Is everything okay? Like, what do you do?" So it was it was pretty interesting to try to develop any kind of sound or any kind of vocals early on.
Right. So how long was it till your first attempt at singing in a band? From then,
so that I kind of stopped band search or anything like that for a while, like, and now at this point I'm like maybe 18, 19 years old, have a little fun job, like, still getting right out of school here soon, but I never stopped, like, now having the car, I think that was my better outlet, and most vocalists I'm sure would say that same. Like you're in the car, most people like to sing the shit. I was trying to scream the shit. So I was screaming as I was going, probably look crazy on the interstate driving next to people. But, I could feel like I was starting to get a more natural sound. And to me, I was like, okay, this is all right. Like it sounds okay, but I know nobody in bands. Like I know no one that I can try to bring this voice to or even try out or show up in front of. And back then, I mean, there was barely internet at all anyways. Like there was nowhere like I could like type in like vocalist looking for band. Here's what I sound like. There was none of that shit. So what I started to do, was I was really still into seeing live performances, being a part of shows, stuff like that. I was going to a lot of local shows where I lived in Newark, Ohio. Randomly, we'd have like, it would either be a straight up like in your face straight edge hardcore show or new metal as fuck. So you didn't have any difference. It was either one or the other, but I'd go to every one of them and I'd listen to shows and I'd be like, this is great. Like, I love that. Started to, mingle around with some people that were in bands, ask them questions again, listen to Gearheads. But no one having a spot for a vocalist or even a tryout. And so I was just like, cool, I like this. Like, I just want to be a part of a music scene. Like this sounds good to me.
Right.
After that, I started to figure out like, well, how can I maybe even book shows? So that's where it really started for me. I started booking shows. And I booked a lot of, like, I can't even remember how it worked back then. Like, I'm trying to think of like how I got the info out to people. Like, I remember even way back in the day when we were booking shows, starting from Second Story Window, we had like a notebook of contacts. Like we literally were writing shit down in a journal, and contacting people. But it was something similar where I was like, there was like little blog spots or like web brings that you could put stuff in there like, hey, I'm booking shows in this area. If you need something, let me know. And I started getting bands from, as far as out as like Indiana. Like I got some people from PA to come down and play. I got a couple people from different bands from Cleveland. And one of which, a band from Cleveland, like I started to become pretty good friends with. And that was a band called The Burning Dawn. Mm-hmm. And very like, this metalish, metalcore-ish, like a lot of them had like a lot of backgrounds in some death metal, some things like that. Early attempts of like anything kind of like metalcore back then. And I mean, this is like really like 2000, 2001, like real early still.
Right.
So they had a really good rapport and good back and forth with them. And one day they contacted me and was like, hey, our singer's leaving the band. He's going to go do something else. I can't even remember what it was, or maybe they even kicked him out. I don't know. But they were like, we've always liked you. Have you ever thought about being a vocalist? And I'm like, yeah, actually I have. What sucks is you guys live in Cleveland and I'm in Newark, Ohio, and that's like 2.5 hours away. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, what the fuck does that look like? But I was a young ass kid. Like, what am I doing? Right. So like, I go to school. I have a little job at Dairy Queen after that. And then on weekends when I have them, like I've got a whole bunch of time. So I committed to them to drive back and forth to Cleveland and practice in Cleveland. And, met a whole bunch of people in Cleveland. Still to this day, I remember meeting people like Above This Fire. There was a band back then called Never Say Die. We all shared like a practice spot in that area too. Some of which those people I still talk to today. And this band that I was in, The Burning Dawn, like I think we played maybe a handful of shows, like maybe one or two, but we practice all the time. And like that for me was everything. And I just love that when I finally got to a mic and I screamed in front of them, they kind of gave that look to each other like, oh shit, okay, this guy can do this. Like he's got vocals.
Yeah.
And that was the first time for me where I was like, okay, maybe I do have vocals. Like this sounds good. So, you know, I got asked to come back over and over again. So that was the really early part for me to be in front of that. But then to finally see acceptance from other musicians and like actually have something to bring to the table where they're like, hey, we actually sound like we actually sound like a band with you a part of this.
Right. So you're like, okay, this is my thing now.
Yeah.
Like,
so I was like, from
wasn't
there,
guitar, wasn't bass. This feels right.
No.
And now people are responding to it. So it's like, yeah, okay, this is me.
From this on out, I will be a vocalist. Yep, that was it, and that's all I needed to see. And it was that was just the first band of it, or the first iteration of it, and I was excited. I was accepted. That meant the world to me. I still talk to a couple of them today, to this day. Some of them are in bands now. So I mean, we've all kind of been in this for a while. But you know, they were the ones that gave me my first shot, and I was really excited to be a part of that. And I didn't care I had to drive hundreds of miles all the time to do it. Like that's how dedicated I was, and that's how passionate I was to be in a band.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like I remember when A Good Day to Die became Robinson. We switched practice spaces to like Mike's house, and then eventually somehow it got moved to Pittsburgh because Jeremy and Greg moved there. So I was going to Kent State for like 3 semesters. We had broken up for a little bit, like taking a break or something, or we said we were done, and it was like, of course we're not. And then I was like failing all my classes and never going and just partying, and we decided to get back together. So for whatever reason, I thought it'd be a good idea and drive to Kent to Pittsburgh every weekend, which was like about the same distance. It was so far, and I would just stay down there and we'd practice and then come back. And like we weren't playing many shows then until we like got a tour or whatever. But it's amazing what you'll do when you're that young just to play. Like I would never drive that far every week now, like to do that. And like
it was. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say you have about the same distance now to us to practice, but but you're not coming
right
up here every week. Yeah. And now,
well, luckily,
with technology,
with the power of the internet and technology, yep, you got it. Like
Yeah.
we can do that. It's a lot easier to do this. So back then you didn't have. I mean, I was gonna call them and like maybe scream over the phone. Like I don't know what you could have done, but
yeah,
there was no opportunities for shit like that.
Like what year? The first year that like GarageBand came out and made it easy for people, to like do that. But then who at that point was buying USB mics that early, and like it took a while. I definitely got into it late for like starting doing our demos and now like recording our actual new stuff, but we can get into that later.
Yeah.
So I think Nick on another podcast maybe kind of told this story, but from your point of view, when you joined from a Second Story Window, how all that went down when you were filling in for Norma Jean and they had just lost their first singer, Jeff. Do you want to kind of tell that story?
Yeah. So, again, like knowing a lot of people in Cleveland, like going to now, so I broadened my show's radar out a little bit further too. So not only was I going to practice in Cleveland, but I was going to a lot of shows in Cleveland. Yeah. And, the shows in Cleveland, of course, and as you know, like back then were like really high quality. Like there was a lot of great shows coming through. Before even that, I remember, I was going to say before we even got to that show, and me talking about me booking the shows too, like I booked from a Second Story Window. Right. So I booked from a Second Story Window at a little shop we had or a little comic book shop we had in Columbus, which was called Midgard Comics. And that was the first time I saw them. And that show I think consisted of, I know that Remembering Never played it. So I know Remembering Never was on it, and I know they played it, and I saw like, that's where we kind of stayed connected with them from that. Like they had been buds with Remembering Never forever.
Did they tour with Remembering Never with you or
with me?
Okay,
yeah.
So that tour. Okay, I was just wondering if that was the
same
tour.
That wasn't a tour. That was just like I think like a one-off that they did before any of that. And I remember seeing Remembering Never, but before Remembering Never, like from the Second Story Window, of course, opened up. And I just remember, like, dude, the energy I had never seen. Like, I'm like, I've seen shit online, and I think I even saw, like, anything comparable. I guess, like, I saw Norma Jean at a church down here somewhere. Yeah. And, even that, but they were just ending, I think, being Ludacris. They were called Ludacris. Yeah. Into Norma Jean. So, like, that was a different style for them, too, anyways. And it was kind of looking, or, like, they were evolving as well. But, like, seeing From a Second Story window, I don't know, there was like a different feel. Like it was like the energy was there, but it was almost more of like the music itself for me was just much darker, much heavier. Like I was like, I love this. Like whatever this shit is, this is great. And I can't remember. I think it was probably way back in the day. I know that Derek did a lot of the booking. He probably was the one that hit me on one of those web rings like, hey, can we come down to the show or come down and do the show? So that's how that happened. Remembering Never, great set as well. But I remember after that just talking to Joe like a whole bunch after that. And then even too, like with Nick, like I just saw him and I'm like, I didn't know drummers could exist like that. Like I was like, the way how I know that drummers were, could be super technical, super intricate, but the way like how hard he hits, and you know this too, like the dude just pounds drums, and I'm like, he doesn't need to be mic'd. Like and it was a little shot, but like you could hear him everywhere. And I remember Remembering Never drummer Danny was behind him just watching the whole time too, like, what the fuck?
Like, I remember that. People always used to like back in the day, like stand there and just watch them, especially the other drummers and the other bands. And I'm like, that's right, bitch.
Yep. And I love that. And I didn't know either of the groups, but I could just see, like, even by body language, I'm watching Danny watch him, like, holy shit, I have to go play after him. Like, and like, so like I knew right there, like they were bar setters. Like, so that's how we kind of stayed connected. And I think I got Joe's number there. I maintained a connection with him, talked back and forth with him. And then, so fast forward beyond that. So yeah, again, like, hey guys, I'll book you, whatever. Like you guys are more than welcome to come back ever again. Like so good. Fast forward to that, the Cleveland show. I think it was the same show that Every Time I Die recorded a video. They did a video there. I know Nick knows this, or I think talked about it on one of them, but I'm pretty sure they did like a live version video of Logic of Crocodiles or something like that.
That sounds right. I think I remember that.
But I remembered him saying that like at the start of the set. So it was already like an energetic, supercharged show. But yeah, that was also the tour where Norma Jean did lose Josh, like not much before that. So they didn't have a vocalist. They had a fill-in person, I think, off and on, but did not have one at that show. And I know that Nick that has put out a whole bunch of stuff for us before, like video-wise. He put that video on his YouTube channel of what I'm about to explain. So
yeah, go look that up if you haven't seen it. Nick Sarah's channel, right? Nick
Sarah's channel. What I would say, plug that.
Yeah, it's like Nick's. What do you know the number for the name of the channel?
69420,
something like that.
But yeah, so you can find it. We'll get it out there. But Nick, shout out to Nick. A restorer, a believer in all things vintage metal and high 8 and VHS. So he just transfers everything over, and it's now accessible on YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff on there.
A lot of good shit. I gave him a lot of my tapes too, so he has a lot of great shows from Cleveland, from Pittsburgh, a whole bunch of areas. This show in particular is on there as well. And so basically they start the show and they just literally say like, hey, the mic is yours. Like, we don't have a singer right now. Go ape shit. And, they just start to go into it. Everybody just flies all over the stage. I mean, it's like, everyone plunges to get to the mic. I mean, I don't even think anyone had the mic for a while. I think it probably just like went right into the pit and just everyone's going nuts. And until they start, they kind of saw that and they're like, let's maintain a little bit of order. Let's vote for the singer for the next couple of songs. And I don't know how that happened, but you can watch it on the recording. But I got voted. It was me, and I did a couple songs. I think I did a few songs, but then I ended up giving the mic back. But I kind of showcased, like, if I was to be in a band of this magnitude on this scale in front of this many people, here's what I would do.
Right.
And so I just went off, and I knew some of their vocals, some of the lyrics, some of it I didn't. I made up, but it looked cool, and I made that happen on stage. And in that audience was, of course, I think Joe was there. I think maybe Nick was there. They were all there seeing that, and they're just like, hey, we know that guy. Like that's cool. And I think, the current vocalist from A Second Story was there. I think Jeff was there too. So they saw me, they remembered me. And I think fast forward even beyond that, Jeff parted ways shortly after, not that long after. And I got a call from Joe, like randomly. I remember just living in Columbus somewhere, and he gave me a call and said, hey, would you be interested to be the vocalist in our band? And I'm like, me? Like, what? Why? Like, and so we talked about that. He was like, yeah, no, dude, like, I thought you did really good at that show. Like, I heard your vocals. Like, I know you have good vocals. Like, I would love to hear you guys, or hear you come up here and try out. And again, further distance, but talking about that again, like if you talk to other musicians, that's not too out of the norm or out of the ordinary for folks that are really interested in performing and being in a band. Like, if they really want that, they're going to do that. They're going to make that trip. They're going to travel however far it is. Like, they want to realize that for themselves.
If you want to make it happen, there really is no other option if there's no one in your town. So it's like you either just give up and wait longer, or you take the opportunity, especially if it's something that like you really like the band and you're stoked on it. Like, you're going to do it, especially when you're young. Like, you pull out all the stops. For me,
I was going to say, and that for me was everything, only because just knowing who that band was. Like, I was like, if I could be in front of a band or be a part of a band like From a Second Story Window, dude, that'd be so fun. Like, that'd be the best. And I know already, like, I've seen them live. Like, I would love to add an element to that too and see what I could, where we could go with that. So he shared that with me, and I'm like, right away, like, I don't even think, I was like, yep, yes, I'll figure it out. I will be up there. Where do you guys practice? He's like, Sharon, PA. I'm like, whatever the fuck that is. Yeah. I don't know what that is. But I will be there. What that is. Right. So I was like, I'm gonna get there. I'll figure it out. I'll get there. Like, whatever. I'm doing it. So, and then a little bit as we talked about it. He also said, well, if it goes well, I'd love to see, you pop up here, and let's see how that goes as far as like your vocals are part of our music. We also just did record some songs, and we're actually currently like in the studio, like recording.
Oh, that's right. They already had the music done, right?
Yeah.
So they were kind of scrambling.
Done. So he even sent me that, like, so I even back then, like MP3 files or whatever, like, on dial-up, like each song itself, and how long songs From a Second Story Window were back then. It probably took an hour each to download. So I got all these songs, and I ripped them to a disc, and I listened to them nonstop. And I'm like, holy shit! Now I also did get the two other songs that they did way before, like the older demo with Jeff.
Oh yeah,
so,
Jeff was on two first, right?
Yeah, so Jeff had In a River, and he also had How London Got Its Fog. So those were the two songs that I had, and I think those are on YouTube too. Like, you can't really find those much anymore, but I think those are his versions are on YouTube somewhere right now.
I haven't heard those in forever.
I'll send them to you. I know I have one for sure. I don't know I don't think In a River is out there, but I know How London Got Its Fog is on there.
And you kept his lyrics and stuff, right? Because they had already released that as a demo.
Yep, that was already out. I wanted to stay true to that because people had already started to listen to that and like it. Like, they were into those songs.
Yeah.
And those songs were out there too. I think it was like, what was it? hardcoremp3.com or hxcmp3.com. Like, don't quote me, but there was a website like that you could go and download demos for free and shit like that. It was way before Bandcamp. But it was a really old website, and I know their shit was on there, and I know people were downloading it. So I was like, you know what? I want to keep that true to form. Those songs were a big reason that I got excited about From a Second Story Window. So I want to keep those in the same format that they were. Yeah. So I listened to those over and over again, got his cadences, got his his patterns for those, got his lyrics, and really just did that. And then the three others, Joe was like, and collectively the band was like, do what you wanted with those. Like, those are yours. Go at it. So, I think I was already working on those before I even traveled up for the first practice. But I wanted to make sure I had Jeff's other two songs down for the tryout, which got me the spot.
Right.
So,
well, yeah. That's awesome, and made history after that, because the EP to this day, people still love, and we still get play. I tried video once.
and how many years? We just celebrated how many years?
Oh yeah, 20 years, right?
20 years.
That's crazy. Which we knew it was coming too. And I said earlier in the year, I was like, wait a minute. That came out in 2004. And we had to double check because it was released and then re-released by Black Market. And then I was like, holy shit, it's this year in October. And we looked, we're like, wait, what day is it? And it was like coming up this Saturday. I was like, I got to post something.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, that was super cool. And just to see also too, like, everyone get excited about that and like reshare it and like, right. Hey, this is what this meant to me back in high school. And like, I used to listen to this every day, like going to school and like after work, like whatever. I mean, that was cool to see for sure.
Right. Yeah, it would have been cool to like do a show around that, but it was kind of like we were going through the transition from Will to you, and just like was like poor timing because it was October and it was right after Furnace Fest, and then Will left after that. So Not the best timing, but would have been fun. Maybe we can still do something.
Yeah, for sure.
So then after you left FASSW in, was that 2004?
Yeah, I think we did this research not long ago. They're on Nick's channel, same channel. There's I'm pretty sure it's a Kent show.
It is a Kent show. I remember that place, yeah.
That was it. That was the last show. So that was my last show, and I think it was right on New Year's of 2004. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah. I wonder. I don't think I was at that show, but I should have been there around that time for college. But I don't know.
I would say you were going to school out there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that place. I've been to that place and seen shows and drank there, and but.
Well, and even just looking at it like recently too, like I remember looking at like who, because like playing it back, I was looking like who was actually there, and I'm looking through the audience, and like Brian that used to front the Heartland, I saw him. Like you could see like a couple others sprinkled around.
Jeff was there.
Jeff was there. Yeah. Duder and Jeff were right in the front. I remember that. I could see them right in the front, which is awesome. Like I mean, that was super cool to see everyone come out and celebrate that last hurrah. But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So. You moved on from FASSW. Did you take a break from bands? I know you were in a few. I was trying to remember all the names. Carved Out.
Yes.
Bastards.
So, Bastards. Hell yeah, dude. So there's some good bands in there too. Like a lot of fun was had still. I took some time off. I remember what I did is I did move back to like Columbus, Newark area. And got a jobby job, like a cubicle style job that we all have done, call center style job. I think that was mine. I worked for like a debt collection company, like some other bullshit. Like right after that, into like a telecommunications company. Excuse me. But like still was like, dude. This is fun. Like this is cool. I'm paying my bills. I have insurance now. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Like this is crazy.
You're an adult.
And I was adulting for sure, and I was just making sure, like I was becoming that. Like I was like I had some structure, some dependability, like all that was happening, but I still miss like the musical aspect of it. Yeah. And it was so ingrained in me still. Like I was still like always checking out lambgoat.com to see like even like what you guys were up to at that point. Because I mean not forever long after I left, like that's when you came in too. And was watching all that, keeping track of like who how the band was going, like what tours you guys were doing, going over to Europe. Like I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome! Like they're doing it. But I was like, damn man, like I would love to do that again. Like I would love to do something like that. So I don't think that was until I think I took it was almost probably a 5-year break or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you had your daughter, and then
yeah,
you probably
Darby. Shout out Darby.
Yeah. So it's probably time for a break, and then it always comes back though, no matter what. If that's a part of you, like I was saying in the other episode, like it just leaves a hole. If you're a creative person and you love doing this, you can grow up. You got to do your adult things, and that's part of life. But it's still always going to be pulling you back in some way, even if you do a part-time thing, project here, or whatever. Like you're always going to find your way back to it.
Yep. And that's kind of what happened, is maintaining, I still maintain connections with a lot of people that were still doing music and like into music, kept it a little bit more local, but even locally, what happened, the first band that I entertained or came back to, or I was like, you know what, I want to do something, like even if it's like part-time and I don't tour, I want to do some weekend shows. I want to do something fun. And that was Bastards. Mm-hmm. And Bastards was comprised of, what we have? We had Jonathan, or John, he goes by John, but, was a guitarist in the Heartland. We had, there was another drummer that not in any main or like known bands, named Jared, that was, in our circuit, but, pretty decent drummer, bass player named Joel, and then myself. So we were kind of like rocking a 4-piece for a while. A little bit down the way, we wanted to add another member to like give it a really full sound, and that was Tommy. And Tommy used to be in Dead Will Rise. Mm-hmm. I think he was a little stint with you guys, like, or was coming to join Robinson or something like that.
He was going to join to play bass, I think, after I quit.
Yes.
So we were never in at the same time. I don't know what they did with him or how long that lasted, but yeah.
Yeah,
shout out
it's funny
Tommy
though, because and shout out Tommy, love Tommy. On your, I think it's either on the Discog page or something like that. If you look at Robinson, he's the photo. And Tommy's like, yeah, I was in it for like 2 seconds, like, but he was a part of Robinson at one point, so that's awesome. But yeah, so really knowing Tommy from like Dead Will Rise, and he also was in something with Greg for a while too called Menerasia as well. So
that's right. I forgot he was in that. Yeah.
He was in that too. So alongside Jimmy from See You Next Tuesday was also in Red Ridge. So like you could see like everyone stays connected around this area.
Right.
That was the first one that we wanted to do. We wanted to take a stab at grindcore too. So we were all in those times like really into like Phobia. Like I listened to so much Phobia back then. Like wanted to kind of sound like it, emulate it. And I just really liked that style of music. Listened to a lot of Magruder Grind. Listen to a lot of like
I haven't heard that
any
name
kind
in a
of
while.
like yeah. So a lot of shit like that. So but we took a lot of influences, and we were like, hey, we all came from kind of like these metalcore backgrounds. Let's try this. Let's see what we would sound like if we made that. There is one album that is available for streaming. It was our second one. We have a demo, but that was kind of the more polished one we did by Bastards, called An End and In and of Itself. I'm pretty sure, something like that. Longer name. But if you look up Bastards, it's a very grim, like black cover with like the Broken Cool logo. And each song, maybe a minute, maybe 30 seconds, but a lot of fun all the way through. We opened them with a song on the very start of it called Bong Rips, and at the very end we end with Rips of Bong. And we play the first song that we open with, we play it backwards all the way through on the end. So it was a fun project.
That's great.
We had a lot of fun with it. We played a lot of cool shows out this way with it. We had a big a venue. It was kind of like a makeshift like warehouse. We called it the Dude Locker. And we would put so many bands through that. We had Architect through there, so Found Dead Hanging. We had Architect come through. We played with them. We had a band out this way called MF NAR, which was really fun. It was almost like a weekly, every weekend kind of thing. So I got that back finally. I got like shows back to me.
Yeah.
And really got to do that for quite a while, and was able to record again and do that at like a part-time level. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Was there another one? King's Blood, was that you?
Yeah, so that's another one. So King's Blood, so not long, I think I stepped down from Bastards. I can't even remember why that happened, but still, again, good friends with everyone. I think just kind of schedules, whatever was happening. No animosity, nothing like that. Mm-hmm. But I think they continued on for a little bit more, but then again, got the bug again. I was like, you know what? I'm going to come back to music again. This time it was with Colin, my buddy that used to be in a band called Symphony in Peril. And he was their bass player in Symphony in Peril. But then I think he actually transitioned over to drums at the end of Symphony in Peril with his run that he was in. And then so he took that and was like, I'm going to make a whole new band. We love Crowbar. We love Hatebreed. It's going to sound just like that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, so yet another challenge. So like, this is another, like, I don't know if I can use my raspy highs and like, the those grim mids and shit that I have. Like, I'm going to try to challenge myself and see if I can do a different style of vocals. So I like developed like this whole like tough guy voice.
Yeah.
And like me, there's nothing tough about me, but like the voice, I thought I had it. I thought I had it going. So I don't think that, oh no, I think that one is on Apple Music and shit. It's called King's Blood. Oh shit. I can't remember what the album would be called if it's on there. It may or may not be on there, but if not, we need to get it on there. Super fun stuff, really like beat down kind of hardcore stuff, but with like a really great tinge of Crowbar, like some really great riffs,
nice.
Which I loved, and I still maintain a connection with that guitarist to this day too. I think I shared you guys not long ago, like there was like a hardcore project that I just threw some vocals on and I put it in our group chat.
Yeah.
If you remember that, and you guys were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That was that guy. So yeah.
That was great. Yeah.
His stuff is great, dude. Like, his name's McFly. He goes by McFly. Shout out McFly. I'm doing a lot of shout outs. But he, we've maintained that connection too. And he's kind of giving me some of this stuff to try out as well just recently. Whereas I kind of had to tell him I wasn't really in his place to say like, hey, I'm joining my old band again. But I was like, hey, I've got some stuff working. I can help you out. Let me try some of this stuff like for now. But I think he'd have no problem getting anybody to front that because his shit it sounds super duper good.
Right.
But anyways, back to like King's Blood. Yeah, like so we did that for a while. I remember joining that for a few. similar kind of thing, like, playing similar shows. We had a song with a buddy of mine that has now since passed. A lot of people in this area know him by Anthony or Little Ant, which I really love that he was able to put vocals on that, because like Now Forever, we got that with him. He passed away at early age of 20 something. But like that to me right there is like a really near and dear part that I love to come back to and listen to. And I think I posted about that not long ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
On the anniversary. Yeah, on the anniversary of his death. Was just a super duper fun guy to be around. And I remember that too. Like we were going to record for that project, and I was like, hey, I'm about to go record some vocals and shit. You want to come do them with me? He's like, yeah. Like, so jumped in the car. We went and did that together, knocked those out. And so now I forever have that on there. And a lot of people really loved that. And anytime we would play that song since his passing, we actually did a benefit show, I think for his family, when that happened. One of the craziest receptions, and celebrations at a show I've ever seen. Like everyone knew all those lyrics. Everyone jumped up there, piled on and I don't know if anyone ever recorded that, but it was awesome, man. It was awesome to be a part of.
Hell yeah.
So that band will always be really close to me as well, and I really love that band. And then when I left that band, so again, kind of, I think the schedules, this and that. I think that's when I started. I had 2 jobs at one time. And I remember, I think this was right when I started to work at where I'm working at now, but I also took on another job at the same time. I was really wearing myself thin in that regard.
What year was that?
A lot of time. So this would have been, if I'm tracking that correctly, 2010-ish to 2013.
Okay,
is when that is. Because if I'm remembering super correctly, 2013 to 2015 was when I joined Carved Out.
Okay.
And so Carved Out was a weird way to be a part of that too, because the way this kind of came about, it was weird because I had never thrown myself out there on a message board or hey, vocalist in search of or something like that. But randomly, I think it was Craigslist, and I was looking at Craigslist because I never I would buy and sell shit on there all the time. Whatever local meetups. Surprised I'm still alive because of that. But my organs aren't harvested. But anyways, just thinking about there's a whole page just for musicians. What does that even look like? So I clicked on it, and someone's the way it was stated in there was something like, "Hey, for fans of Hope Conspiracy or HopeCon and Converge," and I'm like, "Who the fuck are these kids?" So I sent them a message "Hey, what are you guys working on? Would be interested to hear it." And one of the guys, not the person that was handling the message board or whatever that part, but the bass player, when I got there, I happened to know, I knew the guy, and his name, he goes by Nuge or Nugent. So he's really, really well versed in our hardcore scene in Columbus. Had been in a lot of the bands out here, so I already had a lot of respect for him right away. Was okay, this shit can be really good. And I was like, well, what do you guys want to sound like? What are you guys listening to? And that's when I started to listen to a little bit more hardcore punk and things like Tragedy or His Hero Is Gone. That's kind of what they were going for. So again, I tried to challenge myself to see if I could try another vocal styling. So if you listen to that, and that one I just got Carved Out now available on streaming. So I just put that on, taking a page out of your book after you did Robinson. I was like, I'm going to try that too. Yeah. So I took that release that they had on Bandcamp, talked to a couple of them on Instagram, was like, would you guys be cool if I just put this on streaming platforms? And they're like, have at it, dude. Whatever, have at it. And Nuge was totally into it, loved it. Even said back to me, he's like, you know what, this project was probably one of the most proudest projects I've ever been a part of. I think musically it was really great. Vocally, we shared vocals actually back and forth, so you'll hear his vocal style is a little bit higher, and then I go into this more grizzled, very Tragedy style shout. So that's what I was really trying to emulate in that one, just to see if I could test myself and do something different. And so now that's on streaming, and I was excited for it, man. That was really fun. We got to play a lot of great shows with that again. A lot of the Columbus circuit, but we got to branch out a couple times outside of our city and do it. But yeah, I mean I think that was the last official one that I had done, and then took a really long break. Yeah. After that.
Basically
so
until now.
Until now.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2015 ended it. Still was definitely into music, loved music, but I definitely let the throat take a long rest, which didn't have any idea what that could do. Not really challenging yourself and doing anything vocally. As a metal vocalist, some maybe can pick they call it ring rust or whatever. I'm not in the ring. I come back and I get knocked out right the fucking in the first round. For me, I remember coming back and trying anything again after that stretch of time, and it was almost. Yeah, dude, we were like approaching like 9 years or something before I tried anything else again. You could feel that, you could feel the it's almost like they were reborn. They're like virgin vocal cords, and that's so I had nothing.
That's going to be like much more painful. Like I think the longest I've ever taken off from guitar was maybe 2 years, year and a half, something like that. And then I come back and the calluses are still kind of there, but your fingers are just like, what is this? I don't remember how to do this. Then it comes back. Does it come back the same way as for a vocalist? Once you put in a few months?
So for me, and I know we've talked about this too a little bit. I think my bread and butter, my the high screams and my raspy mids and the stuff that I can do that way. Those came back pretty quick. My lows, I'll just share that. They were gone. It sounded really weird. I remember I sent you stuff back and forth before. I was doing almost like a Black Dahlia cover, and I was saying how that sounded. I got to the lows, and you're like, the lows are. And I was like, but I agreed. I was like, dude, I don't know what the fuck happened. I didn't have them the same way anymore. And I was trying to even push the same lows that I had on Not One Word, and those are gone. That shit was that was way different. But I will say, even at the end of my first stint with From a Second Story Window, what I had on what I recorded, that style I did, the lows I did on that one, in person and live, especially at the end, when we would play live, I wasn't even doing that style of lows anymore. I was doing almost a very much I would try to almost emulate a guy, almost a red chord low style guttural kind of thing.
I kind of like that better though, honestly.
Yeah, I wanted to challenge myself and see if I could do that. I did get a lot of feedback though, when I did the this is funny, this will kind of show how noob that I was back then, but when I would do that low style that I had on Not One Word, I remember randomly, we were in Syracuse or something when we played the show, and a guy came up and he's like, dude, you sound like Chris Barnes. And I'm like, oh, cool. Who's that? And had no idea. So fucking, I was just like, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then I had to go research and look it up. I'm like, oh shit. He was literally the first vocalist in Cannibal Corpse. Am I fucking stupid? So yeah, it sounded so dumb, but it was nothing comparison to him at all by any means. Chris is a goat, but it was on that wavelength. It was kind of trying to get to that way, get in that area. So I tried to really innovate that at the end and try some different styles. I've got that back now. I kind of have that same one where I left off when we were doing live shows and shit like that. I've got that one back. Now it's all about, I guess I would say airflow control and really maintaining a long scream, especially when you're doing, for me, when I'm doing lower screams, that pushes more air out of me than the standard highs and all those. I can carry those forever.
Yeah.
So
I will say your highs are incredible, and you might have my favorite highs in the game. If you're you're definitely up there. Especially on the new stuff, I'm just blown away. I can't wait for people to hear it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. That was the one I was like, if I lose these, fuck me. If I don't have these anymore, I'm just out. Guys, I'd love to be a part of the band anymore, but I can't do it. So I would have opted out myself respectively.
Well, kind of coming around to that. So last year, when do you think we first talked? I first texted you about doing a side project. It was summer, early summer, or late spring, or something like that.
Yeah, I think
maybe June.
I remember. Because you guys had a good rhythm. I know that you guys were working on the stuff you guys had with the first couple songs with Will and everything like that too. And I remember even being a part of the group chat too with all the newer songs that you guys were working on. Because again, you guys got what, up to 7, I think, 7 or so.
Yeah, we had 7 and a piece of an eighth, and we obviously recorded the first 2, which were Earth and Eyes and So Say We All. And we wanted to do more than that, but just time-wise and money-wise, and with everyone's life, it was just okay, all we can kind of pull off at the moment and to get everyone up there for a weekend with families and business was 2 songs. So all right, we'll do that.
Yeah.
We planned to get out more later in the year, and then, it just didn't happen. So, but we had a bunch more demos. But once we kind of got to the point where I was so far ahead of Will with like, 7 or 8 songs. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a break because I now want to go back and like tweak these. And then we decided to stop going in the studio and tackle recording ourselves so we could put out more music for people. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be the producer here, I need something to practice on. And I need, someone who can record vocals at the drop of a hat. And Will didn't have a setup at home. We were waiting for him to write. So I'm like, all right, I can pop out demos like, quickly. And I got a new program, like drum sample program and all that. So I'm like learning all this stuff. And I'm like, I need to write something with this because my old demos were half in GarageBand and they just sounded like shit. So I'm like, I need to like start to finish, have a finished product. So I thought, let me write a grind song, sort of like Robinson-esque, just for fun, and then see if Sean wants to sing on it, and it'll give me something to work on. So I write that, send it to you. You do, kind of like just some couple quick takes, and I was like, holy shit, like this is fucking cool. And then you were stoked, and you're like, do you want to make this an actual like project and maybe play some shows and do 5 or 6 songs? And I was like, well, yes. Because like generally I like focusing on one thing at a time because like I get in a headspace with writing, and I'm like, if I start going into other things, then it like takes away from both. But for this, it was coming out and it felt good. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. Cause I didn't think you were going to be like, let's take it like as a serious project. And you were like, no, this is great. Like, let's fucking do it. And I'm like, okay. So that is kind of how that started. And that was in like June. I think we did the second demo, which was like half done. You sent some stuff for that back. And we're like, great. And then FASSW got busy again. So I didn't have time to kind of work on it. So that was kind of sidebarred for the moment.
Yeah, because that was like what, like leading into Furnace Fest and like all kinds of shit.
Yeah, because once it was getting close to Furnace Fest, we were practicing twice a week, every week, and I'm practicing at home. Like we just wanted like that show to be perfect, and it would. Yeah,
that
like. Sorry,
I'll just share that was a tough time for me because I knew you guys were busy, but I wanted to do more shit.
Yeah.
But I was like, if I send a text to Paul, I'm a dick. Like, I know that they're doing shit. Like, I'm just going to relax. When he's ready, he'll send it back to me. But just like, it was that same bug that was planted in me again. Cause like I heard like what was possible. I heard the song and I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. Like if we release this, like I'm so excited to be a part of something like this. So yeah, the first song right off the rip, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. I want to do more with this. Let's keep going. Like, what else you got? Keep sending more. Yeah. But yeah, it definitely there was some busy times back then for sure.
And yeah, that got me excited. And it also helped like breaking me out of the FASSW like lane mentally for how we write and what like, you get into this headspace of this band has to be this, or this based on the old records. And so I kind of was stuck in that lane and like there was nothing wrong with anything I was writing. I was very happy with it. And that at the time it was still catered toward Will. But then doing this and just breaking all the chains, like all this other stuff started to come out and it got more aggressive and nastier and faster. And then when Will decided to step down and you were obviously the only choice of replacing him, we would be done if you weren't, around. Like, so we're like, okay, how perfect is this that Will decides to be done? Sean is here and killing it and like came out and did shows with us this summer. Like, it couldn't have been more perfect because otherwise we probably would have just been done. We're not going to continue on with someone who hasn't been in the band before.
Right.
So we start talking, okay, well, Sean is not a clean vocalist. And like I said before, not that you can't or wouldn't be willing to try, but right. we were all kind of feeling like we want to go heavier. And so that was just the perfect time to go, okay, if we're going to take this more aggressive and darker, faster, well, I kind of have these demos sitting here that you and I were working on that it wasn't so much not FASSW that it couldn't be molded into this. And then once we started listening to it and listening to your voice on it, like, yeah, like you said before, this is FASSW just turned up to 11 and it absolutely can be this band. So that just made me go like, okay, so we can go this whole other direction. We're tuning a little bit lower. It's more aggressive. And I think it's just been refreshing for everybody to kind of go, okay, it's still this band. You're still going to hear us, but you're going to hear a version of it you haven't heard before and an intensity that you haven't heard since the EP and Delinda. So it's very exciting. I think I wanted to ask, like, is there from back in the day when you're basically a kid joining this band and then writing over songs quickly that they already had written, your approach now as an adult, like how different is that than it was back in the day, starting with these new songs, like lyrically, inspiration wise?
Absolutely. So, I was thinking about that before this today. That's funny you say that. So, because, even now is my approach and like, as a vocalist. And again, obviously, we've got our day-to-days, we've got our jobs, we got our families, we got all those things too. So like, what am I pulling from at this point? I don't have the same day-to-day that I did when I was 22 years old, and I don't have I haven't been scorned by this person and, pissed off by this person, I got cut off in traffic today, but okay. But am I going to write about that? Is that what I'm writing about? No, like I think about, my approach now, I get really inspired by a lot of stuff that, whether it be theatrical things, like I know you and I share that a lot. We talk a lot about like things like even like Lord of the Rings, going into that and just looking at some dark ass shit there. Like I get super stoked about like, reading more. Like I did a whole like Google search on like black speech the other day. Like, dude, this shit is like, this whole thing is the EP. Like
it's
like,
fucking sick.
Yeah. So like, that stuff to me, like I just like stuff that's like interesting and like, maybe I'm not writing the most political songs or like I'm not writing the most like, make a change, stand up and do like, but I'm writing songs that like, I have fun, thinking about or researching or like, what also, if I scream this, is it going to sound super cool when I scream that, I look for those kind of things too.
Well, I prefer that to, like a million times better than like someone trying to like tell me how to think or, you should do this and like whatever, or trying to be positive. Like, fuck this is battle. Like,
absolutely. I mean, and honestly, you should try voodoo many times. You shouldn't just try it once. Try it as many times as you want to. Like I only tried it once, so keep going with that. but like those, like just thinking about those, the vocals now, and like even the way that I approach songs, I've even tried that more recently, like with the newer stuff we're writing. What my approach has always been is, I really like to, I have a lot of thoughts, like, and especially if you look at Not One Word Has Been Omitted, like those are a lot of, if you look at the way I wrote, not the ones that Jeff had wrote, but like the ones that I wrote, are a lot of broken thoughts, a lot of things like, that like correlate to each other, but there's no like, a telling of a story. Like, it's just like a lot of things like feel wise or like, just cool sounding shit. Like, that was me back then. And in the last podcast, I kind of delve into that. I didn't have a lot of time to write those lyrics. Like I had like literally like a week and something or 2 weeks. Like the time frame was super quick to get that done and then be in the studio and record those. And like, I love that, that people really like, to scream those and get, Furnace Fest, like that to me right away, watching everyone pile up and sing like, I tried voodoo, like that shit was great. And I'm like, dude, I remember writing those lyrics, like in my weird ass apartment that I lived in Columbus on a Hot Topic notebook that I got from work, like, stupid shit. Like,
I always
I'm like,
say something like that. Like, people like will message me about a song and I always think back, like I wrote that in my underwear in my like at my mom's house in my bedroom, just like farting around in my old Ibanez, and like people are like, this is so great. I'm like, is it? I don't know, but thank you.
I think that's funny because like, or like, interesting if anything, because like as musicians, you remember that. You remember those time frames of where you're at, what you were thinking, what you were wearing. Like at some points, like there's all kinds of shit that comes up, and I can remember exactly, that whole time frame when I was writing that album or writing those 3 songs that I was a part of. But now into the ones that we're writing now, I've got a little bit more time, right? It's not as sped up as the last time. But, even my approach now, before I would listen to the songs, and I love to have, you guys are way in front of that, and especially, especially with your songwriting, like you're way in front of the backbones and the ideas, and like, here's what the song's going to sound like. There might be a couple different iterations, but here's what it's going to be. For me, like, I really thrive on writing that way too, because I get a feel from the song. And, and then I start to, like, okay, this for me, like, is what I want to achieve vocally from the song. But I also had wrote in a way where I'm writing to like, it'd almost be, I'd have all these thoughts again and I'd have patterns for each part and I'd want to make sure they fit. Well, even more recently in the newer songs that we're working on, this is the first time where I've just let pen to paper go. Like I've wrote a whole thing that I'd want to see in a song, didn't match it to any kind of like, certain parts or, 4/4 here, all these like times, like none of that shit here.
Just tell
like,
the story and make it work
and
when it's time.
This time has been that. And, even for the newer song we're working on, that we've been back and forth with recently, now I'm like adding in those two places, and I've actually got so much more than I need. So, there's stuff that I might get to scrap, but I've never done that before. Like there's this, I want to pick the best that can be possible for that song.
Right.
And just try a different approach this time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think we're all kind of doing that too. Cause, back in the day, the only time you heard the song was when you were at practice playing it until you went into the studio. We did do a demo for Conversations at our friend Mike's house. So we did do that once, I forgot. But for the most part, when you're writing, we never heard anything until it was almost time to record or when you record. So being able to demo the full song out and hear it while your hands are off of it and you're not playing it, you have a completely different experience than when you're playing it. And it feels different, and you can hear things that are wrong or that like don't flow right. So I think as soon as I learned to demo, when I was in that pop punk band out in LA, that's when I learned how to like just do simple drums and GarageBand and record my guitar. I was like, I'm never going back to the other way, because my songwriting got so much better, and I learned how to do like harmonies. I could record a guitar part and then play over top of that and figure out things. Cause like, I don't know anything by the book. I don't know what anything's called. I couldn't name anything. So I do it by ear, and I want to sound like, this should be like a Black Dahlia harmony. Let me find out what that note is. Da, 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 da. Oh, there it is. And it's like I couldn't sit there and play with parts and pick it apart. And, let me try this. Let me strum that chord over this part. And, so it's just a much better way to approach things, and you're going to get a much better final product. And I think that's why So Say We and Earth and Eyes turned out so good. It was our first time approaching it that way. And I demoed all those drums first, and like, what would Nick do? And then he takes it and makes it his own, and then we get the final product. But I'm enjoying this thoroughly, and it's great that with our lives we can do that, and you don't have to be up here every week, and you can riff on something, send it to us, we give you feedback, and we send it back and forth, and and then if you say, double this part, I can just go in and do that on the demo and copy and paste, send it back to you, instead of, okay, we're in the practice space and now we got to play it twice as long here, and then, we're out of time for today. Then we forgot what change we made. It's just, it's infinitely better.
It is. And, like thinking about like, me recording even the vocals that you're going to hear on this new stuff, like I did it right here, like with this mic right here. Like, it's just so much easier to anyone that has that experience that, has recorded at a recording studio. Like, I remember the few times that I did, it's fun, and it's definitely an experience. Like I had a lot to take away from it. I would definitely do it again. Like, it was really fun to do, but this is a whole different take on it. And if you think about like, how relaxed you can be, and like, what can come out of it, how many different variations you can try. You're not rushed. You're not like, hey dude, like get the fucking take, man. Like it's like none of that. Like, I can try these over and over again. Like I've got access to the tools that I need. You and I have dabbled quite a bit into that, whereas we've gotten pretty dangerous ourselves with both of them, or both on both of our sides. So like, like you said, like it's nothing for me to get an idea, you get an idea, send it over to here. I put my idea on it, send it back to you guys, hear what it sounds like. Or, hey, we did this recently. Like, hey, we like this part of the song, but maybe try this style of vocals in the latter half of it. I come right back into it, do it, and there it is. Like that to me has been everything. And you don't have to wait to, or for me, like I remember like, when it comes to recording, I would psych myself out like before going into recording studios too. So I'm like, oh my God, like I got to be perfect. I got to be on point. Like, so you're stressed, like you're already like strained. Like I'm already trying to do something your body's not naturally used to, and scream.
And
like,
this guy you don't know is going to be sitting in the booth, like staring at you through the window, like, get it together. Your band sucks, like.
Yes. And you know what? That just reminded me, that whole view. This was actually after From a Second Story Window, before Bastards, all these things. I remember like I got that bug again, and Anthony from Through the Eyes of the Dead had left, and I was talking to Justin, and I tried out for Through the Eyes of the Dead, and I have that copy of that song still to this day in my phone.
Oh, I got to hear that. Which song was it?
What was it? Hold on a second here. It was one of their main, like the one where the pretty sure like the girl screams right at the start of it or something like that. It's like it was the last record or the last album he was a part of. Okay. Like it was like, yeah, and it's like the first song.
So that was like, we did a tour with them, like might have been my first tour with when I joined the band. So it was like probably soon after that, like 2008 or something.
So I don't know if you can see this in the camera. I made my own
Through the Eyes of the Shaw.
And it's 2 inches from a main artery. So I do have that copy of that song with me singing. But the you know, a little bit beyond that, or part of the behind the music, to get that done, I couldn't do it at home. I was like, I want to try. I'll see what and I remember talking to Justin quite a bit back and forth. I don't even know if he remembers this or not. I'll have to send this to him too. But you know, I remember going to some recording studio here in Columbus. The guy was not familiar with like anything metalcore, anything metal like at all, whatsoever, deathcore, let alone anything.
Yeah.
And you know, very much so like, go, okay, go. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, it felt so forced. It's not the best version of me, but like, it's funny to have. And I think I paid like, I don't know, like $100 or something for the session, but I was just like, okay, man, like I'm like knocking out this quick song. He literally sends me puts it on a CD and gives it to me. And he's like, cool, thanks a lot. See you later. Yeah. And I'm like, it was just so weird and forced. Like, I would never want to go back to something like that again. Now, not that it ever would. Like, that was weird anyways. But, you know, just having access to like what we have to now, and like, I can be upstairs and be like, you know what, I want to try that part again. I can come right down here and do it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And shout out to Jocko, because he was definitely not the reason that we want to try to record ourselves, because it was always a great experience up there. And that for me, the first time we did that, they recorded Delinda with him, stayed there for a month or even longer that time. And then when I joined the band, we went back for conversations. And that was my first experience going into a studio. So it's like, at the time, it's like a label's paying for you to go live there for 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. There's an apartment upstairs, so you're there the whole time. And the only thing you have to do every day is wake up and go into the studio and play music. And you're like, even though we are not a huge successful band, like, this is the dream. Like, and it was the middle of January. There was so much snow. We didn't even leave the place once because it was so cold out. Like, I was still a smoker then. I think I smoked one cigarette the entire time. I went out on the balcony. I was like, fuck this. I put it out. But like,
I'm cured.
I'm so happy that we lived through that era where, like, before the home studio and before this was so accessible, to have that experience, because like, I think back to that all the time. I learned so much being there. Jocko is just so pleasant to work with. He doesn't rush you. He knows everything there is to know. If we have a question or don't know how to do something, he always have some kind of answer for it or some kind of solution. And I really remember that fondly and think about it all the time. And even
I was gonna say, you guys recorded that experience though, right? Like, you guys filmed like most.
Oh yeah, there's like two like, what would you call it? Like, webisodes we did and posted it on MySpace, I think.
Yeah, I remember watching those.
It is on. It's called Studio Daze, DAZE, because all we did was drink and smoke weed.
Yep.
But yeah, there was a third episode. I don't know if we ever finished it, but they were just so dumb, so silly. We barely even like showed what was happening. Like we did a guitar one. It's called Guitar Talk or something. And Rob and I were like probably hungover. We were so boring and like not animated at all. We're like, yeah, so this is my pedal board. And this is the room where the cabinets are. Like, it was so boring. Like, man, we look like idiots.
Yeah.
But
and then fast forward to the newer one. What the fuck's going on in here? Sandwich.
Yeah, sandwich. That place like did not change. It's like frozen in time. Like, there are other rooms that he has another guy recording upstairs now in a different studio. But like, the same table is there that we used to sit around and like eat dinner on every night. We did that again. It's just, we got to relive that experience, and I'm so happy we did it. Like, it was so cool. It's just not feasible as a non-full-time band with like someone paying for you to go up there, and everyone's got families and stuff. So we're doing our best, and this will be better for us and for people to get more music out of us next year.
Oh yeah.
So
And I hope to, and I mean, I'm, I don't know how much we want to touch on, what's coming, but I think people will hear that. I think people will hear the quality in that. We put a lot of effort into that. I know we put a lot of, even from the mixing to like you mastering. I mean, you're doing everything in house, like, doing all that, and then hearing the final product, especially with what's coming. Like, I feel that we did a pretty good job. So yeah. I'm excited to see what people think about it.
I am too. And, we got more to come. So we can't say what's exactly coming, but something's coming soon.
Yeah.
And you'll definitely get more music from us next year than you did in 2024. So yeah. And we want to be more active as far as shows go. So we're gonna do as much more as we can. It's still tough. We can't do full tour or anything, but more. I think how many shows did we play this year? We did Boston, Brooklyn, Michigan, West Side Bowl, and then Furnace Fest. What is that, like 5 shows? So not as many as I thought. But we want to get out there some more and hit the places we haven't. It'd be nice to get down to like Virginia, Carolinas. We haven't been to Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida. The thing is with like, if we want, I know a lot of people message us come to West Coast and Texas. That's got to be like a whole different thing because we can't tour all the way out there. So we're going to have to fly. So those will each be their own individual like runs. But we do want to do it. Just it's tough. We're old guys. We got a lot going on. But yes, something is coming soon. Wish I could say more, but can't yet.
Yeah, I'm stoked. We are very excited and stoked to bring you guys.
Very excited. Yes, and
very very soon. Before you know it, it'll be here.
And happy to welcome you back to the band. It's been a great dynamic so far, and I think people are gonna like what they hear.
Hell yeah! Thanks, man. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. So if you don't have anything else to add, I think we can kind of wrap it up here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think I'm good. And you know what? I just want to say too, like, thanks for being a part of this podcast. I'm stoked to see what you do with the podcast as well. Your first episode, a lot of great storytelling. I love to hear more about that. I think, people will see, especially from what we've talked about, like maybe some potential guests that are coming on. I think there's going to be some good, reoccurring, good stories coming through here on this channel. So
well, thank you. I'm excited. And I've wanted to do this forever, but you always go through nobody wants to hear me, talk about bullshit, but everyone thinks that. And it's just like, if you want to do it, just do it. And if you are a friend in the music industry in any capacity and you're listening, I'd love to have you on. So reach out to me, Instagram, whatever. We have so many friends. I was thinking today, like all the people I could have on, I was like, this list is getting so long, and that's such a great problem to have. So I'm super stoked to see where I can take it. And I'm trying to get out at least an episode a week if I can. Yeah. So
I will be listening.
Yeah. And go follow Sean on social media. You're Scram Vandy on everything, right?
Scram Vandy everywhere.
Yeah.
All over the place.
SCRAMVANDY.
That is it. That's me.
Yep. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for listening to us. If you are enjoying the podcast so far, please consider giving me a follow on Spotify and Apple, or subscribing on YouTube. And as always, comments, likes, shares, ratings are greatly appreciated. They go a long way. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.